shine a spotlight ahead, the high side of our truth. The audience is watching, uncertain to feel the room.
Welcome to Sessions from Oblivion, and you've been listening to Montauk Hotel, playing a track called Dive. Dive. Who wrote that?
We all wrote the song together, but Claudia wrote the lyrics. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And how do your tunes come about?
Well, all of our songs are written together. It's a very collaborative process, so we write in the practice room together. So I might bring in a riff, or Claudia might bring in a lyric idea, or Aoife bring in a bass line.
Telecaster
a shimmering Telecaster riff.
With loads of verb.
Exactly,
Love it.
exactly. I won't have a riff without it. So, then we might just be having a jam, and ideas just come together. So
Great.
it's a very collaborative process.
Yeah, sometimes we don't bring riffs or ideas at all.
Yeah.
It just actually is like,
Just
it
jam.
all happens in the room, yeah.
Do you ever bring in just the lyric and start from that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd write down, sometimes I get ideas on, you're on the bus or you're out for a walk, and,
Yeah.
you just write it down and then whatever.
Who's the one in the band who says, it's not very good?
I think we're...
I think it's Aoife.
I don't think it happens too much, does it?
Nah, all our ideas are brilliant. So.
There must be a time.
Yeah, no, I
when-
think we're all honest with each other.
Yeah.
and,
Maybe I've just been in
it's-
crap bands.
Maybe that's
all
it.
right.
Yeah.
Andrew, that's just not really very good.
I
happened for
think
years.
there's a way though, when you're used to writing together, you know when to sort of tweak something or how to bring out the best in someone as well. When
Yeah.
you're used to working together so much as well, you
Right.
get used to writing together and how people work and that kind of thing.
Cool. 2019 was a brilliant year for you guys. The crest of a wave. There's a track, White Billboards.
Yeah.
Probably by the time this is aired, it'll be up to 250,000 streams, but
Hope so.
it's just about at 150,000, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
And you were really active on the live circuit, Van Festival, Electric Picnic, tons of other stuff. Then the world went mad. How did you handle that?
Oh, I think it was challenging for all musicians because, like
agents.
ourselves, and agents as well, and everyone who works behind the scenes, you're sort of really, really busy, and then it comes to a sudden halt, and kind of feel now that we're coming out of that time, you have to start again, and a lot of our bookings were cancelled, and our plans to record we had to push back. So, it was very challenging, but it's kind of made it very exciting to come back.
You're in Wicklow, right? And are both you guys in Dublin?
Yep.
Yeah.
But when they brought in the 5-kilometre rule, are you close enough?
We were very close,
We were very close,
Okay.
But
yeah.
still, you couldn't have people over, so
No,
we were very,
no.
very by the book. So,
Yeah.
no, well, we didn't see each other for a few months, and then Aoife, I didn't see you for a year.
It was a long time.
A solid
I must have been
year.
about a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we went for a walk every now and then.
Yeah.
Did you,
That was allowed.
Right? Did you try and write music over that stage?
We did.
Yeah.
But,
How did
it
you
was
do
very
that?
tough. Yeah.
We were mainly kind of trying to work together over Zoom and over email, send each other ideas back and forth, and trying to jam online was very interesting, trying to jam over Zoom and that
Tell
kind
me
of
about
thing,
that.
you know?
There is a platform you can use, and I guess it's like a digital mixing desk, and everybody plugs in and you can have your own mix.
Yeah.
Or did you guys just do it acoustically?
We were just doing acoustic
Okay.
sessions and trying to get new songs together. But what was
Yeah.
actually most challenging is that everyone's life had come to a standstill. It was hard to get inspired by things that weren't
Right.
just around the house or on the telly kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
I think that was the most challenging anyway, trying to stay creative, you know?
And then when things came back, were you chomping at the bit to get into
Absolutely,
rehearsal?
yeah.
And
I think when the full 5K lockdown lifted and our rehearsal space opened again, we were straight back in trying to get
Right.
things together, you know?
yeah. And what has 2023 got in store for Montauk Hotel?
Well, we've got our new single, Dive Come Float, which you just heard. That's out in early 2023, and that will be forming the part of a new EP later this year.
I'm so sorry, I introduced that wrong. I thought it was just Dive, but it's Dive Come Afloat.
Yeah,
I
that's
do.
it.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Pretty sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. So you're going to get back to where you were on the
Hope
crest
so,
of that
yeah.
wave.
That's the plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. We'll have a little chat later on, but the guest artist on this episode is Unique.
Who's gonna know me like I know myself? Who's gonna hold me like I hold myself? Who's gonna lead me like I lead myself? But if I say you, then I'll love myself. Who's gonna treat me like I need to? Tell me they love me like they mean it, yeah. Who's gonna teach me like I teach myself? But if I say you, then I'll love myself. I'm my own duvet, I sleep on myself. I can do everything that you do, babe, yeah, and everything else. And glowing like the shine on my necklace. I'm good, but my diamonds are reckless. If I don't hold myself, then I'll be falling deep. Who's gonna know me like I know myself? Who's gonna hold me like I hold myself? Who's gonna lead me like I lead myself? But if I say you, then I'll love myself. Who's gonna treat me, yeah? Tell me they do. Who's gonna teach me like I teach myself? But if I say you, then I'll love myself. Who's gonna love me like I love myself? Who's gonna love me like I love myself? I know I'm able, I'm not easy shaken. You got me mistaken, I'm not the weakest thing. They like the look and the vibe I bring. I ignore all the side I am. I can help that I'm on your brain. You and I will never be the same, yeah. Who's gonna know me like I know myself? Who's gonna hold me like I hold myself? Who's gonna lead me like I lead myself? But if I say you, then I'll love myself. Who's gonna treat me, yeah, like they do? Who's gonna know? And who's gonna, yeah? Who's gonna, yeah? Who's gonna, yeah? Who's gonna, yeah? Who's gonna treat me like I treat myself? No, yeah. Who's gonna, yeah? Who's gonna, yeah? Who's gonna, yeah? Who's gonna, yeah? Who's gonna treat me, yeah? Tell me they do. Who's gonna know, yeah? But if I say you, then I'll love myself, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love that. 4 vocals and an acoustic guitar. Thank you. And thank you, girls. Would you call that soul?
Yeah, like R&B soul.
R&B soul.
Yeah. Got the
great.
girls bringing the soul, so yeah.
Yeah, it's all soul. It's all girls. What's going on?
No,
Will there be boys on the stage?
I mean, we have one now. You know.
Can I join? I'll join.
Well,
the band.
come.
I can't sing though.
There you go.
I could join just for the eye candy.
Yeah, just a bit of a boogie. A bit of a boogie. Yeah, we could do that.
I can do a dad dance.
Yeah.
That's a single myself.
Yeah.
And it's available now.
Available out everywhere on all streaming platforms.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there plans? Will there be an EP?
There will be an EP. There'll be an EP sometime this year. I'm not going to reveal just now. I'm going to keep it a bit mysterious.
Follow you on the socials.
Follow me on the socials and you find out everything unique music on all socials.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, girls. Brilliant. Tips and tricks on this episode is Fiachna O'Brien. Hello, Fiachna. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Good to see you.
You're looking fresh. You told me you were out for a walk with the dog, the beach.
I went down to the end of the beach and back with the dog. The dog tends to walk me rather than me walk the dog these days.
So this is tips and tricks. What is the first thing you would say to, say a young person wanting to embark on a rock and roll roadshow?
God, it's a really good question. And I'm sure the answer that would spring to mind to everyone straight away is the idea of sticking with something, because there are times when you embark on a rock and roll journey that you really don't know where you're going or what's ahead of you. And the one thing that we certainly learned as we progressed through our early journey is that we'd no idea that fate would play a part in so many things and luck. Now, obviously, you've got to have the desire to do what you're doing. You've got to be really full of that conviction and that confidence. And once you have that, that's your secret weapon, really. If you kind of go at every show you do in the knowledge that you're going to blow away the audience. And really, when we were in our late teens and early 20s, that was the feeling that we had. That was the feeling we had when we went out to Grafton Street busking. We knew we had to gather a big crowd around us so that we could pass the hat around to, and the more people we passed the hat around to, the better. Yeah, absolutely. Better food we could eat later that evening, and so there is literally that hunger has to be there, but also your faith in that something will pop along. Like, we had no idea that somebody would walk past us in Grafton Street and recommend that we go on the Late Late Show. Oh, which happened. So we went on the Late Late Show, and then who sees the Late Late Show? Lots of people see the Late Late Show. And I have a feeling in our case, Bono saw the Late Late Show and heard a demo tape that happened to get into his hands somehow around about the same time, and offered us our first go at making a record with a record label, which was Mother Records, which you two set up. That then was promoted all throughout the UK. It hit BBC Radio 1. Terence Trent D'Arby reviewed our first single, and thought it was great. The next thing, there's huge interest in the band from everywhere. And that was just one of the little things that happened in the beginning that we had no control over. Tip number one is just that self-belief. And I think you can't create that. You kind of have to have that naturally.
You were saying there about giving it all at your shows. Like, I suppose, more than 30 years on, I had the great pleasure of seeing the Flowers twice last year, and still giving it all, and don't go, still not going. Yeah. In fact, I think it was a salsa version. You did an interview.
It kind of was. Yeah.
That was really cool. It worked very, very well. So how do you keep, you're still able to give it socks, give it all? How do you keep that going?
Well, I think the way we've been able to keep it going is by giving each other the space to do whatever else we want to do in our lives. And for the last, I guess, 15 or 20 years of our now almost 40-year career, that's been the way it rolls, And I suppose in the early days when we would have had management in a record company, there would have been big pressure on everybody to remain 100% committed to the band. And if you didn't do this, it was all going to fall apart. Well, guess what, folks? It doesn't all fall apart. Yeah.
What else? What other advice would you offer?
Well, so they're all the good things that can happen. I guess, along much like life itself, you can hit a few bumps in the road. And one of the great phrases that I always return to anytime there's a bit of a bump in my road, be it personally or professionally, is that play from your wounded place. That's how the blues started. That's how, which is the deep well of rock and roll. That's what music is for. It's to play from your wounded place. And if you do that, you're going to put every bit of feeling that you have into each note you play and into each word you might write or sing. And when you do that, it has this weird alchemical effect on yourself and on the trouble that you're going through. If you're going through trouble at that time, it sort of gets rid of it. It turns it into something beautiful. So that's something that I found really valuable. And there are tools that you can use as well. I found I mentioned Martin Egan, who was a great old friend of mine, songwriter, sadly no longer with us. And Martin is a man who went through all sorts of difficulty in his life and emerged an incredible wordsmith. And he introduced me to a book by a woman called Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. And The Artist's Way literally gives you tools in creative recovery. Really? There are two very simple, it's like a 12-step program, okay. And it makes you write longhand writing every morning, first thing when you wake up, for 3 pages of the first thing that comes into your mind. Right. And she calls it brain drain. She says it takes all those negative thoughts that you might have first thing in the morning away and puts them into a copybook that you then close and put away for the rest of the day. And the second thing she gets you to do once a week is take yourself out on an artist date, right? Now, the artist date is when you go to a gallery or you go to a cinema or you go and do something on your own that you've not done before. Right. So, or visit somewhere that you've never visited before. And it's just to go somewhere for an hour or two or whatever. And it's literally just, so you do that. And and then you end up writing about that a little bit later on. And it ends up then, it just has the ability to unseize the cogs that might be all locked up, Right. The Artist's Way. Yeah. So that was a book that I found really valuable, and sounds like therapy. It's self-therapy, Yeah. But and then the most incredible thing happened to me. Talk about fate. The woman who wrote the book, Julia Cameron, ended up in Dublin and wanted to meet with people who were using the book. And she ended up back in my house up near Dolphin's Barn at the time. And, we got fish and chips in, and herself and her daughter and Martin, and we sat around writing songs the whole afternoon. Wow. Great fun. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So you recommend people should pick up that book, The Artist's Way? I think The Artist's Way, if you're feeling stuck creatively, it will unglue all of that. I've been stuck since 1982. Well, get The Artist's Way. That was my first gig. That's when it all went wrong, Victor. Not at all. Not at all. That's all good stuff. And anything else? Well, I guess, one of the things, it is important to keep an eye on your business affairs, and there's a tendency I know that when we started out, there's a tendency to believe that you don't have to care about money. Or that you don't have to care about the business end of things because you're so free, man, that you're just doing your thing. And that's a mistake to think that way. There is nothing wrong with making sure that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed in terms of the deals that you do with anybody. So be careful with that. That's all I'd say. Just, make sure that you understand everything fully and that you're happy with all of that. And if you're not, maybe get some professional advice. Some advice. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. That's another one. Vic, now, thank you very much. I know you're very, very busy, and I do appreciate it. You're coming to us live from your man cave. Beautiful guitars. No, I'm very, very happy to do that. I mean, all I can do is really speak from my own experience, and that's what I'm sure everybody's doing. And you have a wealth of it. Well, at the end of the day, everybody finds. I mean, in terms of, I've come to a point now where life is so busy, as you described. I've got young kids and I've got a dog to walk, and and yet I find myself getting frustrated. How am I going to get the time to write songs? And so I have the phone in my pocket and I sing them into a voice note and I stack up stuff. And eventually I will get a day or two somewhere, and there'll be a wealth of stuff there that might just, get the songs rolling again. So there's always ways of reassuring yourself that you can, your output doesn't have to stop because you're distracted doing something else, Right. Well, I'll stop being a distraction to yourself. Vic, I look forward to seeing you live very, very soon. Brilliant. Thanks,
very much,
Ed.
sir. Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you, Fiachna. Fiachna was saying there, this is a business. You've got to keep your eye on the cash. What do you think of that?
Well, it's very important. I think,
Who
'cause,
does it in Montauk Hotel?
well, we're all involved with the admin, but I'd be kind of, I suppose,
You've got the purse
administering
strings.
it, I suppose. Yeah, yeah.
And what do you do with it all?
Well, everything we make goes back into the band, and I think that makes it function like a business. So anything that we make goes back into recording, goes back into music videos, getting photos done, petrol for gigs. That's a real expense people don't think about as well. But
Rehearsal costs,
all that kind of stuff. Like being in a band can be an expensive thing. So any money you do make, you know, it's a good investment to put it back into yourself. You know.
Leagues O'Toole did tips and tricks, and he was saying you have to ask yourself, why are you in a band? And if it is for the money and the fame, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah, 100%. We can second that. Yeah.
We will be playing out with a track called Stains. What is Stains about?
Stains is about kind of making mistakes over and over again.
It's about me.
As an individual, as a society, and kind of history repeating itself. And yeah, so it's just a reflection on that. Like never able to give any answers, but questions plenty.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
Do the other guys ever contribute to lyrics, or is that solely your domain?
I'd write the lyrics, yeah, and then obviously I run them by.
Is there ever amendments? Do you ever say, might be better to do it that way, or what about you, Aoife?
I think Cloud does her lyrics so well that we rarely do. Obviously, you'd ask us for our opinion on certain things, or could I phrase this differently? But most of the time, when Claudia kind of gives us, it's like a poetry session. She'll just read the song out, and we're all just.
Well, they're very forgiving.
There's usually very little to tweak, to
That's
be honest.
exactly what I mean.
Very
Yeah,
little,
yeah.
Cool. Guys, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks for having us.
Really,
It's been a
really
great
enjoyed
day.
the tunes, and hope to catch you live sometime.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Montauk Hotel. This is Stains.